The weather is heating up. People are keen to jump into the water and cool down. Very important that we all pay attention to the water quality. So to have poor water quality at the beach, you generally need a source of pollution, and most commonly that source of pollution is a big stormwater drain. So if you look at beaches like Maroubra and Coogee and Bronte, often you can see a big concrete drain that's draining all of the rainfall that lands on the streets down onto the beach. And so that causes the pollution, and then some beaches will flush the poor water quality out fairly quickly. Other beaches are more enclosed, and if it's more enclosed, then it will take longer to flush the stormwater out of the bay, and you'll have poor water quality for a longer period of time. So some of the work that we've been doing has shown that we can understand the bacterial concentrations in water by looking at what are called fecal indicator bacteria. So certain bacteria that is in feces, in poo, that might come from animals, or it might come from humans if you have a sewage influx into water. And even though those particular bacteria aren't necessarily the things that cause us to become sick, they often indicate that there's fecal material present. So there are all sorts of other viruses, bacteria, protozoa that might be present. So there are certain things that we can look at and we can measure that will tell us about the risk of other things being present that are actually much harder to measure directly. So we've looked at understanding relationships with rainfall, sunlight, tidal movement, and as well as measuring the fecal indicator bacteria themselves that give you an understanding of whether or not you're likely to have a high risk of pathogenic organisms, those that make us sick, or not. So normally the types of illnesses that you would get from swimming in polluted water can include things like ear infections, skin infections, eye infections. And if you accidentally swallow the water, which we all do when we're swimming, we swallow small amounts of water, then you're at risk of things like gastroenteritis, vomiting and diarrhea. First thing that you can do to avoid putting yourself at risk is to understand how to recognize the risk factors. One of the most important is rainfall. We advise people not to swim at the ocean beaches within 1 day of heavy rainfall. At the more enclosed beaches where you have less flushing out with clean water, the advice is not to swim for within 3 days of heavy rainfall. But more and more we're understanding other risk factors that we can observe as well. So seeing that, for example, there's floating debris or discoloration in the water is a good indication of pollution. Understanding the tidal movements, understanding particular types of environments, which beaches are open beaches and therefore flush well, which are more enclosed, or the harbour beaches, which are more likely to retain poor quality water for a longer period of time. So just understanding where the pollution comes from and what causes the pollution to hang around is a good way to help to protect yourself by knowing where and when is a safe place to swim.